Hello fellow humans and welcome to another episode of your replays. If you want to send me your replay, put them on my Discord server, link in the description. Last week we had the Kranwagen as a heavy auto reloader, and now we have the Progetto 65 as a medium auto reloader. 2.7k DPM, 0.32 accuracy, 9 degrees of gun depression, decent mobility. It's not as amazing as, let's say, a Leopard, but it gets around, so it's very nice. 350 alpha damage on this vehicle, 245 pen. Pretty standard stuff, just has an auto reloader, which does make it very interesting. Now, one thing people tend to forget about auto reloaders is that the reload time only happens after the intra clip, so you have to always add the intra clip to the regular reload. So you don't have 5 seconds reload, you have 8, which is not that amazing, but it does work out nonetheless. What is also not amazing about this vehicle is the non-existence of turret armor besides the, well, pretty much non-existent curved mantler, which is not really great. You can get pinned very, very easily. But at this game, it's not about that. This game's about team play, which is very rare, I know. But there are rare moments, and not in a platoon, but where team play does, in fact, happen. And this is one of those games, which is very nice, so thank you very much for sending it in. But then, for now, we're not having none of that. Hori and M60 on the enemy team. You don't really want to peek that Hori because it can pen pretty much anything, and the strength of the Hori really comes from its weird configuration that it doesn't lose alpha damage with its premium rounds, which doesn't really make... I mean, it loses like 5, but it doesn't really make sense. And now, M60 finished off, and now we're going to have to reload for a very long time here for mtg.contact, which, yeah, it's not great, but the Hori is now very busy with the 62A, and he does something here. He does distract the Hori. The Hori turns away his attention, and so saves the 62A's life in that sense, which can be useful. Now, using your hit point tactically, like this, is a great asset, right? So know when to use your hit points. Don't throw them away. It's important. If you don't know the reference to that, watch last week's video. Well, now 2v2, 2.6k damage, 369 hit points. Enemies are both very high HP. The 62A that he saved is on 225. This does seem somewhat unwinnable, but let's see what happens. The 62A is only alive because mtg.contact has, well, essentially tricked the whole Hori into focusing on him, which is nice. And things like that, I highly recommend doing that. I often talk about, like, use your team to your advantage. But that's one of the things that matter as well. Don't just use your team to your advantage, right? Because keeping teammates alive is exactly that advantage. If you can take a shot for a teammate and keep them alive, you absolutely should. Given they seem competent, if they drive out rearwards, you know. Probably not, but in most cases, saving a teammate like that is what's good for the team. And that's what you want to do. Now, I have no idea what that E4 was doing, but he wasn't doing it very well. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, basically, it's not about just getting the best for you, because sometimes, obviously, just like in life, sometimes doing something good for someone else is the best thing you can do for yourself. So, I don't really talk about that too much, because to be fair, in a lot of cases, it's not going to make much of a difference, and the one that has to make the difference finally is you still. But in this case, it works out, and it is lovely to see. So if you happen to have the chance to save a teammate from sudden death without having to die yourself, or without having to put yourself into serious trouble, or, like, let's say you would have to lose 2,000 hit points to do it. Or if all it takes is one shot, take it. Because it just helps. And now that type is technically in a very powerful position, because, you know, all he needs is 2 shots. However, he's in a heavy tank against 2 medium tanks, and these 2 medium tanks are doing it right. What you don't want to do is both be on the same side, because if you're both on the same side, all he can do is essentially turn his front armor to one side and defend himself. But now he has to engage 2 sides at the same time, and he can't do that. And now he's on 300 HP. Now everyone's a one-shot. And that is just amazing team play right here. You know, got 60 on one side, got the Progetto on the other side, and just crossfire. That's how you want it to do, right? Especially if you happen to be in a type situation, that is what you want to avoid. You always want each enemy in front of you, and you can point at them. Because if you can't, this is what will happen. And you have 2 one-shot medium tanks winning out against pretty much a full HP tank destroyer and a full HP heavy tank by pretty damn good team play. And I just really enjoy seeing that. So, again, I can only reiterate, sometimes it can be beneficial, not just for you, but for the entirety of the team, to save a teammate. Because every gun you keep in the fight is a gun that can win you the game. So keep that in mind. Because I often talk about, oh, just use your teammates as hit point shields. Well, that's the last resort, essentially. You don't want to do that unless you're sure that that teammate's not useful, essentially. But the Sheridan is quite useful. Now, similar DPM to the Progetto, but completely different vehicle. We have a 560 alpha damage gun here. No auto reloader, obviously. Way more mobile, but not really any armor. The Progetto does have some very well sloped frontal armor. This vehicle has none, so it makes it a bit harder to play, but you have to peek a lot less. So if you are new to light tanks, this can be a decent entry because, as always, the less times you have to expose yourself, the less chance the enemy has to shoot you. So in that case, high alpha damage is good, especially on a vehicle that can reposition itself this quickly. And high alpha damage also means high HE damage, which is always lovely. And obviously, what you want to do in every game is maximize not only your performance, but also the team's performance. If you can help the team, you absolutely should. It's just those moments where the team can't be helped is when you have to go on your own. And realizing that is also a very important skill in its own. And in this case, we look at the remap. Unfortunately, missed the 183 there. And what we know, or what the player knows, is that there's 2 heavy tanks of the enemy team in the spawn. Which means that this TVP, for example, is completely unprotected. The Arc Panther is now gone at the hands of the 30B, which is an achievement given the MX-30B's average performance. But now, we have 3 fast tanks against 4 slow tanks. And now, it's only 3. There's still a heavy on the team, obviously, but it is AI is 4. And yes, I know that by the icon up top. That's how little of a life I have. I can just glance at the icon in the team list and poof, that's an IS 4. So yeah, but here's the thing. Experience isn't taught, it happens. That's how it goes. That's the most important thing. Like, you can't expect to be good in like 300 games. It's never gonna happen. But what you can do is, again, think, and think. If you're keeping your teammates alive, you have extra guns that can help you out. If your teammates aren't useful as guns, they're useful as hit points. If they aren't useful as hit points, they might be useful as spotters, right? Make your team useful, not just for yourself, but for themselves as well. Because a good player is going to do well themselves. A bad player is going to kill themselves. But an excellent player is not just able to up their own performance, but also make teammates around them more useful than they would be. Now in this case, this is a very bad situation. One-on-one, close range fight against a heavy tank that is pretty brawly, that is pretty decently high DPM. You don't want to do that. You want to get out. If you can't win a fight, you get out. That's the most important, one of the most important tips in Blitz. If you can't win the fight, you don't fight it. Right? Because, like I said last week, if you've got nothing to lose, you can either choose to lose or try to win. So, in this case, what you got is you got a Chieftain that's coming up. 534 hit points is enough to take a shot from the Chieftain. So, essentially, we'd shoot at the chieftain now. There's 2 tanks on the enemy team right now. Which one would you take out first? Well, obviously the chieftain. Now, not necessarily because it has less hit points. Because the T96 can also be a one-shot. But the chieftain does have excellent HE rounds, and that is very lucky, right? That is extreme luck right there. So, luck's always a factor, obviously. Sometimes you just get lucky. But because the chieftain has better HE than a T96, the chieftain is a lot more likely to do 534 damage with his hash rounds. Right? That's why you take the chieftain first, for example. And now, the MX-30B takes a shot at the T95, and the T95 has no chance. Again, approaching from both sides. Nice little bit of team play there. If they're both on one side, he can focus, but attack from multiple sides. And obviously on the other side, if you are in a 1vx situation, always have them attack from one side, so you can be more effective. Now this game by Kuro was very effective. Thank you very much for watching. See you next one. Goodbye.